Great. Please keep your microphone muted when you're not talking. And finally, of course, keep your eyes out for the summary report, which will follow next week. And now I would like to give the floor to Isabel to introduce this topic within POLIS.
Okay, so hello, everyone. Thank you for joining. Okay, so this is the second meeting in our series. We have been talking about jobs and skills for sustainable mobility, previously with traffic management, and now today we're going to talk about urban freight. And we are doing this because there is a lot of research and interest in this area, especially amongst cities, amongst academia, amongst the industry, as we'll talk about today. And we thought it was very important to address it. And Nina, I think in a bit, we'll talk about her experience in this area and why she is interested in talking about it too, and why Breda University is as well. So over the last few years, sorry, I have to keep the knitting. Over the last few years, POLIS has been working on this with our members quite closely. As Lola will be able to say as well, she is the chair of our urban freight working group, and this is the capacity we've been working on it. So this year we've launched an e-course for sustainable freight. I'll talk about that in a minute. We have discussed it in the context of small and medium-sized cities. How do they manage their urban freight? And we have also been working with POLIS on several projects that have been piloting new solutions for urban freight. So we have LEAD, which has been working on digital twins, our new SURF project, which we'll talk about in a second, Solutions Plus, and We Transform, which have all been working on how do we manage urban logistics, and also how do we also manage skills and competencies for this. So we've been working with many stakeholders, including our members, our member cities, to pilot new solutions. And here are some of them. Here's some of the stuff that people have been doing. So we have Gothenburg, Rome, Ile-de-France, TfL. Cities around Europe have been working to find new solutions as e-commerce has exploded, not just over the last year, but over the last decade, over the last several decades. We have to work to transform the way cities work and the way spaces are used to ensure that demand is kept up with, but also that we stay on track to reduce emissions. And to do this, POLIS has been working with the industry. So we've been forging new partnerships. So we work with Alice. We've been working with the World Economic Forum. We've been working with several others to conduct workshops, create toolkits, working on our zero emissions for urban fleets and other things like that. And so we've also been, this is our topic for today, so human resources for urban freight. How do we create the right education and the right trainings? So earlier this year, in September, we launched with the Environmental Defence Fund, part of our SURF project. We launched our e-course. So this is a flexible learning platform so that regional authorities and the industry and the public can learn more about zero emission zones for freight. And this is designed as training to go along with one's job function. And as we'll talk about later, this is a very important aspect of how we keep up with the skills and competencies. How do we ensure that the training is there and the knowledge is there? So we'll kind of build on that across this meeting. This is what happens if we don't talk about this issue, which lots of countries and member states across Europe are experiencing at the moment. And Nina, I'll hand over to you.
Yes, thanks. And you will see that to start with, the topic that we are discussing today is really not straightforward, because as all we know, human resources for urban freight include really large variety of different types of jobs and professions related to it, and of course related to skills and competences that are necessary. So yeah, speaking about human resources in urban freight, we always need to keep in mind it's about like distribution centers, it's also about urban freight planners, it's about drivers, it's about all kinds of different types of professions. And we're living in this highly dynamic world, and you all know a variety of factors that are shaping urban mobility and freight today and tomorrow. And of course, next to socioeconomic sustainability factors, there is a range of this governance and technology-related developments that reshape urban freight labor market. Growing rates of e-commerce, platform economy, intelligent transport system, robotics, and of course, automation, they just few that already reshape content, processes, infrastructures, and really daily tasks of urban freight professionals. And if you look at what is research is finding nowadays, so it's true that, yeah, we speak more and more about urban freight, but when we start digging into the labor market of urban freight, actually, there is not much that is being developed at this moment. So you can really easily find diversity of magazine or journal type of articles, which are highlighting changing roles of the postman, or for example, like a booming in the delivery drivers demand. Or we know that European Transport Workers Federation regularly attracts attention to the working conditions of different job categories in transport, including urban freight, for example, working in safety conditions of the urban delivery drivers, but also the impact of digitalization on the platform economy workers in transport. And also randomly, you really see that in general urban freight transport research, there is a mentioning of the trends and developments in relation to the urban freight labor. So our ambition today is really to make a next step forward in this topic and to discuss and to identify key trends that affect workforce in urban freight labor, and also brainstorm on skills and competencies required for the urban freight in the future, and try to identify the gaps that employers experience or start experiencing already at this moment. And to explain a little bit the format of this webinar, prior to the session, we asked our speakers to prepare statements answering key topics of our conversation today. So now we'll invite each of them to elaborate on statements they did. And again, please ask your question to the speakers in the poll file. So starting with trends. Yeah, Walter is not with us, but Lola and Susanna, what are the main trends in traffic management in regard to its role in sustainable mobility? So how these trends affecting the workforce? And I would like to give a floor to Susanna to start with her statement, and please elaborate on it.
Yeah, thank you very much for the invitation. Thanks to everyone and good morning. So my role as director at the Zaragoza Logistics Center, we rely our activity in two main pillars. One is education, and the other one is research. So that links very well with the task that we are covering, with the topic that we are covering today. So as part of our research on European projects, we are very close to this topic. And well, I think that main trends will be led by technology. We have to take into account that the European Commission is relying on two main pillars. One is the pillar of sustainability in the future, and the other one is the digitalization. And the technology, the workforce in the coming years will have much more technological profile, because data will become much more important than many other areas. Infrastructures will be the focus. So that has to be translated to sustainable mobility. Why? Because if we translate digitalization into the supply chain, that means that we are moving to reducing lead times, forcing the concept of synchromodality. The synchromodality concept in logistics means that we have all the transport modes in an optimized way without the delays. So that's the that's what ALICE is doing. You mentioned this before. ALICE is the cluster of logistics at European level, and ALICE is working on this. ALICE is adopting the same commitment that the European Commission for the zero emissions in 2050. So ALICE is working in 5 working groups. They have a roadmap with several tasks to be covered every decade. And specifically speaking about the urban transport working group in ALICE, they also have some strategic actions for the next decades, such as assessing opportunities of business models, efficient and automated distribution systems, and sustainable and integrated urban logistics and city mobility. So this is, of course, the new trends are changing the way in which we are doing business, and therefore the workforce is changing. So we need much more prepared people. We realize this when we are training our students in the master programs. So you mentioned before, we need drivers, but with a different training, with a different education, because now we are introducing e-mobility, for instance. We need qualified and non-qualified blue collars and white collars with a different training that used to be delivered before. So we need to reorganize those new business models, and we need to reorganize the last mile delivery. So it means that we need qualified people, but we also need non-qualified people with some different skills as we had before.
Okay, thank you very much. Yes, I will continue with reading Walter's statement and then give a word to Lola, also to reflect on her, maybe to discuss if you have additions to Walter one. So Walter told us that technology really will be light electric vehicles and based on containerization. So this is one of the trends that he sees the big impact on the urban freight. Then public-private partnerships in using traffic data for planning. Intelligent transport systems will really also play a major role. And finally, this trend of collaboration in white label hubs. So Lola, I would say, what do you think about this? And also maybe reflecting on your own statement. How do you see, what are the main trends for the urban freight shaping the workforce?
Hello, everybody. Thank you for inviting me to this webinar, to a very interesting webinar. Yes, as you have said before, I am also the chair of the Urban Freight Working Group, and I am working also with ALICE. And also Madrid is collaborating and participating in some European projects like LEAD in relation with urban freight. And I think that the main goal in urban freight is to reach a sustainable distribution. The main trends are the same as in other areas, especially applying technological advance that can help to make urban freight more sustainable. For instance, urban air mobility, remotely piloted aircraft, autonomous mobility, technological optimization, and adapt the delivery system in low emission zones. In short-term, trends are as follows: promote and accelerate technological change through economic incentives and regulations to prevent access of polluting vehicles to the most sensitive areas. Loading and unloading zones and restricted area zones should be monitored for a better knowledge of the sector, transferring information to suppliers to optimize their services. Rationalize the growth of e-commerce by promoting the use of lockers and the implementation of micro platforms. Agreements with the logistics sector are needed to promote urban distribution centers close enough to the destination, but far enough away from residential areas. These trends are definitely affecting the current workforce. E-commerce has led to a transformation of the sector with the incorporation of new and skilled workers. It's a job opportunity, but it should be regulated so that it does not lead to an invasion of urban spaces. Additionally, more tech workers will be required. So yes, I think the future of the urban freight is going to change. It's going to change the workforce, and we have to take advantage of the technology. I think this is very important. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. While I'll continue a discussion with our speakers, I really would like to now ask audience to share their opinion in the chat and also to brainstorm together with us. So can you please let us know in a chat, what are the keywords that for you define the urban freight of the future? So if you can just type the words that you already heard today or you think we didn't mention yet and you can reflect together with us, please welcome to the chat. And then, yeah, we'll hear. And I have a question then to Lola and Susanna. So you really both focused a lot on these technological factors, right? But what about all this like socioeconomic pillars in a way of course, like what you mentioned, Lola, e-commerce and understanding the behavior of consumer. Is this also really something that is shaping the urban freight, or you really see it as a different type of the job function?
Well, that's a very important question. That's a very key question. Of course, I think, as I mentioned, this is one of the trends. It's here, given the pandemic situation. The rhythm of the e-commerce was accelerated, and I think it came and it's going to remain in the future. Now the operations are changing. The way operations and deliveries are performed is changing. We need to reorganize everything, but we need to take into account that we need to answer with responsibility. I mean, for the future, and given the current situation of globalization and the bottlenecks, etc., I think this is not a sustainable model if we continue like that. So we need to think that these new operations, let's say, using those platforms, etc., are here just to remain, but needs to be reshaped in a responsibility way, in the sense that maybe we need to consolidate some. I'm just guessing, maybe we need to consolidate some deliveries for the future, or just to achieve a mental shift, collaboration between the public and the private companies, so that we ensure that there's a balance between the e-commerce and the new way of delivering in the urban areas, and the concept of sustainability and the zero emissions objective targets that we aim for 2050. So I need some balance needs to be done. And for this, of course, many jobs can be created, and we need to be very careful in the way we reorganize or reshape the urban distribution.
Thank you.
Yes, I agree with Susanna. Of course, we have to reinforce or perhaps to reshape the e-commerce. During the pandemic, we have a big increasing of the e-commerce, but in some cases, immediately that people ask for that, we have to think about that, because it makes that we cannot make a productive urban freight. And that's why we have to talk, to show the citizens the importance of the sustainability, the mobility in the cities, and yes, that's why I have said before that it's very important to rationalize the growth of e-commerce by promoting the use of lockers or micro platforms to facilitate the urban freight in the cities. No. Yes.
I think let me add that I think in cities, regarding the public administrations, and let me talk a little bit about it. In the past, public administrations prioritized citizen mobility over urban freight deliveries, and now I think most of them have realized that the activities of urban freight must be integrated into the sustainable urban mobility plans. So more and more cities are trying to design sustainable urban mobility plan. I've participated in a European project regarding mobility solutions for citizens at neighborhood level. And for the research centers, and we were in charge of the part of urban deliveries, that was really difficult to achieve the mental shift, not only by the side of the citizens, but also by the side of the public administration, because they envision only solutions for citizens' mobility, but they didn't realize that every change in the infrastructure for citizens had involve a difficulty for the urban future urban freight delivery. So it was really difficult to achieve the mental shift, and I think this is somehow changing right now, and it's been, as I told before, it's been accelerated by the pandemic, where the logistics positions, the logisticians, that kind of jobs had increased, they have now an added value that they didn't have before. So when you ask someone before the pandemic, what are you doing? Well, I'm a logistics. Oh, okay, so you are dedicated to transportation. They didn't see anything else on the supply chain. Now with the pandemic situation, now is this job has been in a position of an added value, and I think the role of people at all levels in the supply chain has significance that they didn't have before. And I think the public administrations in the role they are designing strategic solutions regarding urban freight. And I think this is the moment to start thinking on, as this webinar is trying to do, the jobs, the workforce that will be needed in the future, because now is the moment to negotiate, to talk, to engage all the stakeholders, public, private companies, and all the stakeholders in the supply chain.
Thank you, and you're really nicely leading me to my next question to all of you, as well as to our audience. And by the way, really thank you for audience to putting comments in the chat. I'll read them out loud later. What you mentioned now, Susanna and Lola, for example, the role of logisticians got additional added value. We also saw the growth in demand for delivery jobs. How do you think, if we look back at the previous slide, when we have all three statements, how do you think, which professions are the most affected by the trends that you mentioned? Are there any at the risk of decline or reshaping, or are there any new that you see appearing? Isabel, if you can go one slide up that we see the statements, maybe then it's easier to reflect on jobs. Yeah. So speaking concretely on professions as jobs, what can you think about?
Okay, well, I don't think professions are going to disappear. I think they will transform and they will acquire some new skills maybe. So and of course, I think the new positions will emerge in the future, but those existing ones, I think they will be transformed. In the future, what I see is that those professions related to data analysts, for instance, they will have a lot of value in terms of environmental impact measurements. I think it's not very, we can't find those very extensively today. I think in the future also renewables energies, I think we will find more emerging positions, because I think the current restrictions that we already are experiencing in cities, like for instance, super blocks or zero emissions areas, and some kind of restrictions to heavy vehicles in the city center, I think that will lead in the future to electrical vehicles or even hybrid vehicles. So that's that depends on renewals as well, and I think that will create a lot of jobs, new jobs, transform jobs in the areas of not only the final, the last mile distribution, but also in production, generation of those, the energy, the maintenance of equipments, and of course operations planning, and also training, because that's fundamental part of the supply chain. If you're not, if you haven't received the knowledge, you can't operate right after.
Thank you. Lola, would you like to add something, maybe from perspective of public authority? What do you see?
Yes, of course. Yes. I think that we are going to have a transform of the workforce, of course. I think that more or less they are going not to disappear, but yes, we need less workforce, but we need more technology, more people relation with the technology, with management of the micro platforms, for example, also to control the pollution, like Susana has said before, also the maintenance of the equipment, and of, for example, the controller or the urban air, urban freights, for example. Perhaps in the future we have a lot of drones transportation the urban freights in our space, and we have to control this kind of equipments, no, engines flying in the sky. And yes, I think that the people has to go more for the technology way. Because we need more people to control this kind of vehicles, and of course the renewable vehicles, electric vehicles, and has also the managers of the micro platforms, as I have said before. And before I wanted to come back a little for the last question, because Susana has said that now local administration and public administration are more now taking into account the urban freights in the new plan, the mobility plans. And yes, of course, nowadays, for example, in Madrid, we are working in a new urban sustainable mobility plan, and one important part of this plan is the urban freights, because the mobility in the cities I don't know now. Sorry. Yes, we have the urban freights giving us a lot of mobility in the cities. No, they have increased more than 20% during the pandemic. So nowadays, the mobility of the urban freights is very important in the mobility in general in the cities. And also, for example, in the new law, in the new ordinance in Madrid, we have introduced some issues in relation with urban freights, for example, the smart urban freights, and also the development of micro platforms in the city. But in relation with the workforce, I think that technology will be the most important point.
Okay, thank you. And yeah, also some input from Walter on it. He really mentioned us that, for example, he thinks that more smarter tactical planners will be needed, because operational planning will be done most probably with machine learning and artificial intelligence. But like this technical planner function is something that will grow in importance. And also he mentioned really better urban drivers. So development of a human function in the driver profession. Next to it, Walter mentioned public-private partnership in using traffic data for planning. So also something in relation to this type of jobs. And of course, more like developed knowledge and collaboration in white label hubs. And maybe just to round up this conversation on the trends and job profiles, I would also like to mention that in the chat function, we see that our audience mentioning such trends like stakeholder engagement, sustainability, delivery with small electric vehicles, also white label hubs and boxes with barrier-free access for all people, last mile delivery at agreed times from local hubs, boxes to single customers. So all these trends that will also might create some new job profiles. And also again, the question to the audience, if you think of more jobs that we have mentioned that will be impacted, reshaped, appearing, disappearing, yeah, please put your opinions in the chat. And I would like to go to the next topic of our conversation. It's really closely related to what we discussed now. Job profiles, how do you think? Which skills are being affected and how, based on what we have discussed? So I would like to invite Susanna to reflect on your statement on the level of skills and competences we need for urban freight.
Well, many skills will be affected, as I mentioned on the statement, from administrations to manufacturers, as I told you before, as I mentioned before, the introduction of new solutions for urban delivery lead to the transformation of the current jobs. So that means that you need to include more skills, and the profession of a logistician, from a driver to a operations manager or planner or director of logistics in a big company, that needs to include some other skills for a driver. For instance, I know that in Madrid, the drivers are receiving some additional training, because the driver that delivers you the parcel at home is the last stakeholder in the supply chain that you see. This is the face that you see. You don't see anything else. You can follow, you can track your parcel, but you see a face. And they are receiving some training, because in the future they may develop also a role as a salesman person. So not only the driver that delivers the parcel, but someone else that offers you the possibility of acquire a new product or a new parcel, or show you a brochure with the different related products that they have. So skills are changing, and for a logistics person, in the past, logistics person was a decade before, or 15 years ago, a logistician was working in a silo. And now logistician is a transversal, is part of all the departments at a company. And even now, logistics people are part of the higher positions in companies. So that means that they need to know not only typical logistics areas, but also technology, sustainability, new rules, and negotiation, globalization, etc., etc. So you need to reinforce the skills with at all levels, with topics that we didn't think in the past that could be part of the curriculum of a logistics person.
Interesting. Thank you. Yeah, then maybe going to the statement of Walter that I'll just read. So he also actually, as you saw this trend that communication skills of drivers needs to be changed or improved. Then that again mentioning that operational planning skills will disappear, so tactical planning skill will become more important, really data driven, and using open traffic data and modeling. And strategic collaboration will also come forward. And also he mentions that technical engineering skills in transport technology and charging, also ICT and micro-fulfillment will grow in importance. Lola, and what do you think about skills and competencies that we need in urban freight planners or beyond this?
Yes, as I said before, I think that you have to reinforce the new skills, and yes, you have to have a more holistic professional skills and relation with, as I said before, with the technology, of course, the engineering skills in transport technology, management. I think nowadays it's very important to manage the different platforms, different distribution in the city, and also why not? It's very important to know something about the environment, sustainability, pollution, the restriction in the low emission zone. So it's important to know the regulation in each city, because it depends on the city. You have different spaces, different regulation to can take into account the urban freight. So you have to have a more holistic knowledge in general. Mm-hmm.
And here, like, we speak like a lot about this knowledge pillars, but if we really think of a type of people we need, right? So from one side, we saw indeed this strong data skills, but do we also need people who have this collaboration skills, stakeholder engagement type of skills in urban freight? Or that's less important? Because I think data we discussed, communication skills of drivers, but yeah, more like, yeah, what was mentioned in the chat functions, they call the engagement and collaboration type of skills, softer type of skills. Do you see those important for urban freight?
Yes, yes, of course. It's important to have the two different skills, the two different profiles, because in some cases we need people to manage the urban freight, but in another hand, you need people to make the last mile and to collaborate in the city, no? So yes, it's important to have these two different skills.
Yeah, I fully agree, Nina. I fully agree with Lola. You need both. You need those soft skills, but you also need you still need the traditional skills. You still need engineers. You still need ITs. You still need these people, because in the future you will have equipment as well, different equipment maybe, but you still need that kind of workforce. But of course, soft skills will be needed as well.
Yeah, and I'm asking it, because it, I think, really depends on the side of mobility, because with the growth of AI, we hear, and technology, really hear a lot. We need data scientists, data specialists. And then the question comes, what's about the people? Who will be about communication between people and technology? But of course, it goes maybe much more for the personal mobility and maybe less for freight. So I was really also curious in which sense this type of softer skills are also important in relation to technology for freight. And I would like to go now to the poll question. And that's kind of, type of an exercise we would like to run with you and with our public. And this is really the top 8 skills that World Economic Forum thinks will be really important skills for the future workforce. So we would like to ask public, our audience, to put in the chat the top 3 skills they think will be important to the specific urban freight job profile. And also you, Lola and Susanna, to reflect on it. How do you think from these 8 skills, what are the 3 top that are most important, maybe for urban freight planner, for logistician, for postman, for a driver, because of course we have this variety of functions. And really encouraging public to put the 3 top skills in the chat function as well. So what do you think?
I think I agree with the World Economic Forum, of course, but perhaps in World Freight, I choose the different numbers, no? For example, I think that leadership is very important, perhaps 1 or 2. Also, technology skills, I think it's most important that in the World Economic Forum is number 7, perhaps in the 3. Programming and tech designing also, I think it's important to optimize the routes of the urban freights, perhaps the 4. I don't know, now I don't remember the name, the numbers.
But you're speaking now about urban freight planner, or what type of position? Because of course, from different profession in urban freight, different skills are important. So maybe...
Yes, no. Yes, I was talking about the most important skills for urban freights. But perhaps these 8 are very important, of course, but perhaps in the urban freight, they have a different order, perhaps, in my opinion, of course. And I was talking about perhaps the first one, the most important is perhaps leadership. And I don't know, I'm not sure, but
6, if you have to name 3 out of the 8, so number 6 will be 1, right?
Yes.
And which other 2?
Technology skills, I think it could be very important.
Okay, and another one?
And I don't know, but problem solving is important because you have a lot of problems in urban freight, and programming and tech design is important too.
Okay, and that's then more like from a public authority perspective of view, right? For the urban freight planning public authority.
Yes, for in this point, I think programming and tech design is very important for the the local authorities, problem solving too, and leadership.
Okay, good. And Susanna, would you like to reflect on it and maybe come up with any profile? I don't know, warehouse engineer or driver?
Well, from the point of view, I will follow Lola's reasoning, and from the point of view of urban freight, sorry, for me, active learning will be one of the most important ones. You need to learn. You need to learn to implement. So that's easy. Second one would be technology skills. I think they are fundamental for the future. So that's the main pillar in which the European Commission is relying, and that's international as well. And I would say, yes, to say something different, creativity, because you need to be creative. Cities are designed or were designed hundreds of years ago. They have a shape, and you need to be creative to reshape or to redesign the way operations are performed in cities. So we need creativity, we need people, we need entrepreneurs, and we need a lot of people engaged here just to create or to design the way urban freight will be performed in the future.
Nice. And yeah, thanks everybody for filling up the chat. And actually, if it's possible, I don't know if you would like to express your opinion or not, Carla, because I think you have quite a different view from all of us. I was now typing numbers and I saw that from our speakers and also from those mentioned in the chat, 3, problem solving, and number 7, technology things are the most recurring. And Carla, you have really critical thinking, creativity, but also programming and technical design. So yeah, if you just want to reflect on it, you are really welcome. If not, it's also fine, but yeah.
Sure, yeah. Good morning, everyone. I put critical thinking because I agree with Susanna that we need to have creativity, especially when we're dealing with European cities that were built in a long time ago, and we need to be creative when looking at it and planning to it, but also we need to be critical because I keep seeing so many different ideas and they not are always plausible with the current situation we're living in or with the future. So I think we need to be critical in the way we think and the way we plan as well. Not only be creative, but be critical of how we think about it.
Okay.
That's why I thought.
Yeah, thanks a lot. It's really nice to see the different opinion. And of course, yeah, programming and technical design skills also you put. So it's also something comes more. Okay, yeah, thank you very much. So yeah, but I think despite this, we have really looking at the chart and reflections 3, 5, and 7 as leading skills for the urban freight. Now going to our next question about filling the gaps. So how do you think, like we discussed trends and job profiles, we discussed really skills we need from urban freight professional of the future. At this moment, what gaps are this changing causing in the current competencies and skills? Are we already missing any job profiles or not? So Susanna, I would like to again invite you to reflect on the statement you provided us before, please.
Yeah, as an educational center, we've seen that other universities and my center, my educational center, is changing the way or changing the curricula in the or has changed the curricula in the last years because companies are demanding some specific skills that were not provided before, and we've been thanks to this, our participation or our research activities and our participation with some other universities with MIT or with a local university, we've been able to be flexible and agile to provide these skills to our students. But I know for sure we've been performed a research in other universities at European level that was part of a European project called NextNet, in which we realized that there was a great gap between what the universities are offering or are teaching to their students and what the companies are demanding. Why? Because technological world is developing very fast. If we go to the first industrial revolution, second, third, that happened in a long period of time, but the fourth technological revolution is happening now, and changes are happening almost every week. So if you buy a device right now, and if you buy the same device a month after a month, then you realize that the technology is much better than the one that you bought 1 month ago. So 1 month before. So that means that that translated at the company level means that they are growing too fast. They are including a lot of technologies, and they are demanding profiles that are trained and with experience enough to be part of the company and start working from the 0 minute. So within this project, we analyzed several curricula at the different universities at European level, and we realized several gaps. So one is that the curricula of the logistics curricula, those universities, most part of the universities have no technological development, okay, or they have obsolete material, or they have a lack of professionals or professors with the needed skills to train the students in trending topics for a company in the 2021 year. So we not only lack, we don't have only lack of knowledge in technology, but also in other very crucial topics in supply chain. So that's the case of environmental issues, trade market changes, for instance, globalization, new business models. So these are topics that are currently not included in many of the curricula of a logistics person in one university at European level. It's in most part of the cases. In our particular case, and I can speak about my organization, I can say that what we started teaching logistics in 2003, and what we used to teach in 2003 is completely different to what we teach right now in 2021. Of course, topics like inventory management, forecasting, finance, they all remain the same because they are part of the structure of a logistics person. But topics related to technologies, blockchain, artificial intelligence, contracts negotiation, for instance, or even predictive analysis, machine learning. These are topics that we started teaching like a couple of years ago, no more. But we need to ensure, and we need to encourage other universities to find out the mechanisms to be enough agile and flexible, just to provide people with enough and sufficient skills for what the companies are demanding.
Yes, thanks a lot. And yeah, I'm also coming from University of Applied Sciences. I really hear you talking, because literally we are at this moment reshaping the whole mobility program, but also the way of teaching mobility, leaving traditional methods and going much more to all this project stakeholder engagement type of blended learning to try to fit to the fast developing professional world. Okay, thanks a lot. And then, like Walter mentioned to us that he thinks that there's little research is done on the future driver, and there is also the lack of professional urban freight planners in his opinion, and also lack of knowledge of warehouse engineers. So it's a pity he's not here to reflect on these statements, but at least we have it. And Isabel, if you can put also on the screen Lola's statement. And I would like to give then you a word to tell you where you see gaps.
Yes, in my point of view, as a public administration, the main gaps are the ones related with regulation. Always public administration go after the technology, after the new situation, after the new mobility modes, like for example with the scooters. The scooter appears in the city, and later the cities regulate the operation of the scooter, for example, no. And this happened the same in the urban freight distribution. That's why we had agreements. We need agreements with logistics sector to learn and to know the new needs that they need in the urban freight. It's very important, this collaboration, public-private collaboration. For example, in Madrid, in the new law, we have introduced a sandbox, a mobility sandbox, to can operate with pilot projects, the new needs that the logistics sectors or other different mobility modes, for example, to test in the city this new innovation system or something like that, because we need to test before to regulate, no? And I think that in the public administration we have this challenge, the regulation and to the prevision of the regulation with this kind of the new ways of the urban freights, the new ways of the new center of distribution, and then, for example, also the new sustainable modes for the urban freights with bicycle cargos and something like that, no? So in my point of view, as a public administration, I think that we have to improve this topic, no, the regulation, and to help the distribution, to help the mobility of the city with this.
Okay, thank you. And I would like again to ask a question to our public. Do you see any additional gaps and like, at this currently what market is demanding and it's already not there? And while I hope that our public will reply it in a chat, a question to you, Lola and Susanna, like, of course, you're presenting based on your knowledge, the general view on the market, but you're also employers organizations. So do your companies as employers feel a gap in the skills and capacities? For example, that you are looking at a specific profile in urban freight, are you able to find it? Or there is really something that you cannot find on the market at this moment as employer organization?
Well, in my case, as employer organization, I needed to include professors with a qualified profile for teaching some courses, of course. So I needed to include the professors, and we are in continuous training as well, the professors at the center. First step that I did is I included professors in the area of logistics 4.0, artificial intelligence, machine learning, and then some other professors were in the process of continuous training in new technologies such as blockchain and digitalization in general. And of course, those that are part, I am included as well in that area. Those that in the past used to work in the area of urban transportation, of course, we are just in a continuous training just to acquire the skills needed just to work at the level of at the European projects, in which, of course, technology is included. We are also part of the LEAD project as well, the LEAD and Solutions Plus. Solutions Plus is mostly related to solutions related to electric vehicles and e-mobility in general, but digital, the project LEAD includes the concept of digital twins. It's something really new, and we are in collaboration with another technological center in our territory, in our region, just to work on this concept of digital twins. In the past, European projects used to implement pilots or living labs, and now we are testing everything in a computer, in a laptop. And this is the concept of digital twins. You can create new scenarios, and you can optimize you can introduce all the inputs and variables that are happening at the urban area, at the urban level, and then you can replicate the scenarios and you can optimize situation and generate different scenarios, not only one. So that's the reason why I say that we are in continuous training, because that's also new for most of us. But as an employer, of course, I introduce new professors with new skills. That's something needed, and that's what not only companies but also students are demanding, because they see the new environment in which we are living.
And we have a question to you from Carla. So how do you see universities and researchers shifting to a more agile methodology?
We are shifting. In some cases it's very easy, some others it's not so easy. I mean, in our case, because curricula at universities need to be approved by a committee every year, and it's not so agile for for every university. In our case, we are very flexible because we have the traditional courses, and then we have some courses that we traditionally called advanced topics, and that give us enough flexibility to introduce new topics. So it depends on every university and the regulation. And of course, I go to Lola's topic, because there's a gap on regulation, but not only at the urban level. There's also a gap at universities, because most part of the regulations at universities are obsolete. And I'm not telling something wrong with this. And we need to update regulations at all levels, cities, universities, and I think this world is moving faster than we can do with laws and regulations.
Yes, to add something in relation with Susana has said before, yes, I totally agree with her. For example, in the public administration, we need more different profiles for the public servants. We have a very strict profiles defined in the public servant, and we need more technological profiles, relation with big data, because we need to planify the new routes, the new application, and for example, we don't have this kind of profiles nowadays in the public administration, and we have to take a technical assistant, because it's impossible, no, to develop this kind of application, for example, inside the public administration. That's why we need more technological profiles and new different kinds of public servants. Okay. But it's very difficult too.
The creation of social servant positions is not so agile, so that's the reason why they need to be in continuous training, or the administration needs to invest some money to create new positions, and that's really difficult.
Yeah, the training is very important too. Yeah, the continuing training.
And then Lola, like, is it easy to find these profiles?
It's difficult to find this kind of profiles, yes, because as Susana has said, the university has to change also the formation, no? But little by little, we have more technical profiles, and we have, for example, in Madrid, an area is focused on the technological digital issues. But the problem is this area has to be transversal, but they have some problems because it's not really transversal. So the different, for example, the mobility area, we need more relation with this area, and we don't have enough human resources in this way. That's why we have to call for tenders with technical assistance, because it's impossible to improve the regulation, to improve the pilot projects, and to improve for example, the implementation of the mobility plan, the new mobility plan.
And then how do you deal then with this, like a gap in skill? Is it like more again on job training or upskilling of the current staff? So what's your approach to deal with the problem?
Yes, and now I am working in a new training program for all my people that are working in my general direction in relation with the building information modeling methodology, and in relation with the big data technology. Artificial intelligence is very important too, because, for example, we have a very important model, the traffic model, with all the information of the traffic, not only the traffic, but also the bicycle, pedestrian and also public transport to planify and the new modes, the new things that we want to have here in the city of Madrid. And to manage this model, it's very important to know about the traffic, the artificial intelligence, the big data, everything all together. So we are going to have new training for the public servants in my general direction, yes.
Okay, good to hear. And then I would also like to invite our audience, if you would like to react on it. Do you, as an employee organization, experience any particular difficulties in actually hiring urban professionals, urban freight professionals that you need? So in case if you just would like to share your opinion, let us know. Just talk on with a microphone or give a comment. And and in the meantime, just maybe question to Lola and Susanna, how do you think what can be done actually to accelerate this whole transition? So are there any concrete steps from side of public authorities, universities that can be taken, or any other, or transport companies themselves, how we can accelerate this gap? Or maybe this gap is not yet really very urgent, to be honest, right? Like, do we need now in 10 years and 20 years? It's also a question.
Yes, I think, for example, the public administration will have a main role to promote and to promote this kind of change, because we can act for this kind of profiles in our tenders. And that's why little by little, the private enterprise has to train these people for this kind of issues. But it's very important that first the public administration acts for this kind of profiles in the tenders, and it's a good step, I think. Of course, Susanna can add anything else, but I think this is a very good point to accelerate.
Yeah, I agree. Let me say something before, and I think the digitalization and this acceleration of this world depends on several factors. So one is the economic. It depends on the territory in which we are, country or region. The economic fluctuations is going to regulate the rhythm of the penetration of these new technologies and changes in the world. Also regulations and the mental shift of the final consumers or the citizens in general. Following this rule, and it's not the same for a medium and medium company than a big company, a multinational company, of course. So the rhythm is going to change. What we can do to accelerate this from my organization, which is Educational and Research Center. So we have our master studies, but we also have executive education. On executive education, we may design courses, specific courses for companies. So that means that we have the resources to design with our professors and with the current they have the current needed skills for this, and we can design like courses. As Lola mentioned, the part of the civil servant is learning how to new tools, new technological tools, and new solutions in mobility and new methodologies. So we can do the same from here. So in fact, we are working for different organizations. We are now starting a course for training the trainers, in which we will be able not only to train people or workers at companies how to do things, but also professors at other universities on how to deliver these kind of courses. And I think it's really important. Not only we can provide training to companies, to workers at companies at all levels, medium, high levels mainly, but we also train the trainers in the sense that we can help other universities to deliver similar courses and to accelerate the rhythm in which we can cover this gap, this existing gap.
Okay. Yeah, thank you very much. Yes. And I would like to go now to the final part of our webinar. Yes, prior again to this meeting, we asked our speakers to think what the new job profiles on the urban freight can look like. And on the next slide, you really see some three kind of new coming professions. So Susanna and Lola, can you please reflect on those that you have proposed? Lola, would you like to start maybe for a change?
Okay, yes, I have, for example, proposed the control of autonomous drones because I believe that in the future, the urban airspace is going to be used to urban freights a lot. And that's why I think that it could be a new job. Perhaps we can have now in some countries some controllers. But I think, for example, in Spain, we don't have this kind of job nowadays. And I think in the future, we need this kind of profile because we are going to have a lot of different kind of drones, not only for urban freight, also for passengers. And we have to control the space, no? Like nowadays they make in the airports, no? The controls in the airport, or something like that, no? Similar, but in a more focus, for example, in the city or something like that. Yes, and I think it could be very interesting in this new job.
Yeah, okay, good. And Susanna?
Yes, let me add, Lola, that I love that new that new job. Because in Zaragoza, in the city where I live, this is a reference for piloting drones in Spain. So they are piloting how drones in the future will be delivering freight in cities. So I love this job because I think that's futuristic and I think it's feasible, in fact. So I created a couple of jobs. One is called CO2 appraiser, and I designed a horizon of in 2035. So I think this position, this job will be in charge of measuring all the CO2 coming from vehicles in urban areas. In this horizon, I think that most part of the vehicles, or I desire that most part of the vehicles will be electric vehicles or vehicles with hydrogen cells, etc. So I think we will have a figure or some workers in charge of measuring those old fleets with conventional fuels, and that will be, of course, penalized somehow. And I think that will be a job in the future. And the second one that I created is something that exists, or at least is being tested in some pilots at the European level, is what we call the neutral last mile delivery. In which there's a neutral trustee in the city center that with a non-pollutant vehicle distributes or delivers the goods, the freight to the final consumer, but consolidates the freight from different shippers or different transport companies or operators, logistics operators, sorry. That was tested in some cities. I don't know for sure if this experience is been working for longer in some particular specific cities in Europe, but in the future, I think that will, or I hope that will become very common in cities, because with the introduction or penetration of new technologies and data sharing, I think that would be mandatory, or should be mandatory, for the public administration in terms of increasing the load factors of vehicles, reducing pollution, reducing number of kilometers in driving in or driving in city centers. And I think that will be a mandatory position in the industry, and they should report periodically to that would be a mandatory position, and they will deliver the parcels from micro hubs, existing micro hubs that will be built in the different city centers or different areas in the city. So this is an existing position that may be mandatory in the future, may be crucial for the future development of urban distribution.
Yes, I agree with Susanna, and thank you for your idea, because yes, in the city we need this kind of profiles, and overall with the low emission zone that all the city has to create now, And this position can be very helpful to control the pollution and to control the low emission zones. Yes, totally agree.
Yeah, and I see in the chat Isabel is encouraging our audience to think also to post some job that they think will emerge. And I know, Lola, you also managed to ask a job profile like manager of urban freight platform.
Yeah, because nowadays I think little by little we are going to have more micro platforms in the city to broken the load, no, and into more sustainable vehicles. And I think that this is very important. A person who manage this distribution, the last mile with bicycles, cargo bicycles, and also to control the areas where these kind of vehicles can enter. Independent of the regulation of the cities. And yes, I think it's another profile that we are going to need in the future.
Yeah, interesting.
We also thought on some solutions for a specific project. Instead having micro hubs, which are fixed depot in an area, we thought on mother shippers. So because the final consumers change it every day, that was for the postal service company. So as the final consumer change it every day, instead having a fixed depot or micro hub, we used or we thought in the idea of a mother shipper. That's a big truck. Inside the truck, there will be like small electric vehicles like e-bikes or e-vans, for instance, or e-motorbikes. And then they could distribute from different places every day to the final consumer, considering the most optimal route every day. So that was a different idea that may be also futuristic.
Mm-hmm.
But if you actually really think about more moving into these white labels and one-time delivery, I don't know if it will ever happen in urban freight, but is it then more like on a neighborhood delivery manager, like really a local delivery officer assisted also by a robot or any type of technology, who is really responsible for the one-time delivery pickup from the houses or from the local boxes of the specific geographical area and working with a local micro hub. So that's maybe another view, because you're speaking about more mobile type of micro depot, or maybe we move to really like neighborhood delivery managers who really make sure there is only once we have been called in our doorbell to one-time delivery pickup per day. And I also, yeah, Susanna?
No, go ahead, Lola.
No. Yes, I agree with you, Nina. Yes.
So yeah, a variety of possibilities in the future. And also I see that Harold mentioned that producers, manufacturers of intelligent boxes and e-bikes. Yeah, that's true, that indeed we shouldn't forget this side of production, manufacturing and maintenance of all the technologies we are speaking about. Okay, yeah, we are heading to the end of our webinar. So maybe to conclude a little bit is that, yeah, we discussed today that there's indeed like this variety of economic, social, environmental, and technological trends that are not only shaping the content of work in urban freight, but also working conditions, structure, and composition of this workforce. And yeah, we discussed different type of new jobs will be appeared, skills and everything, and we will summarize it and send it around to you somewhere really soon. And it's really clear need for more like life learning programs and upskilling and reskilling of educational profiles on urban freight and different type of career opportunities. And while I would like to invite our audience to think what else they would like to see being discussed while speaking about skills and jobs. So we discussed already traffic management. We discussed also urban freight today. So please tell us which other type of urban mobility areas you would like to discuss in relation to the human force. And while I hope our public, our audience type their answers, Susanna and Lola, maybe you would like to do some final statements on these topics and yeah, your final thoughts and future outlooks on it.
Well, for me, this topic is amazing. I've seen in the last 20 years how it has rapidly or very quickly changed our lives, and I've seen some mental shifts. I would like to continue working on this. I think these changes are coming here just to remain in the future. We're going to be technology is going to be part of our lives forever. And well, I would like to encourage people. I don't know what kind of audience do we have, but if there are students, I would like them to encourage to study this amazing area of this field of logistics, because I think there's a lot of future in there.
Yes, from my point of view, we have to take advantage of the technology in all the sites, and we have to reskill not only the regulation but also the training in the private companies and of course in the public administration. And we have to work together in a collaboration way to improve the urban freight, because it's very important for the mobility of the city and for the needs for the citizens. So we have to work together, and we have to take advantage of the technology. I think it's very important. Thank you.
Okay, well, last chance to, if there are any questions to our speakers from the audience, and otherwise I would give the floor to Isabel to finalize it.
Okay, well, thank you to everybody. I'd just like to give a little reminder that the POLIS annual conference is coming up at the end of this month. We'll be in Gothenburg. It will be in person, which is a first for post-COVID for us. And this conversation will continue, and Nina will be joining us, where she will be discussing traffic management, but it will be drawing on what we've been discussing today in terms of human resources. So she will join the panel. So if you're going to be there, I recommend that you come and listen to this one, because it will draw on some of the stuff we've discussed today and talk to others from the industry as well. And this is the conference. So thank you to everybody who's joined today. It's been really, really excellent. I've really enjoyed listening to you all, and as I said before, the report will be available on our website after this. So if anybody's missed anything, the recording will also be available. And as Nina said, if there is anything else you think that should be discussed in terms of jobs and skills for sustainable mobility, please do send me or Nina an email. I'll make our contact details available afterwards. I'd also like to say that our governance and integration working group is also working on this topic. So my colleague Manon, who is also here, give a little wave, Manon. There we go. I would also encourage you to get in touch with her as well. All the contact details will be available on the report and on our website. Yes, have I forgotten anything, Nina?
No, I think we're done, and yeah, we are finishing a little bit earlier than foreseen, right? But I think we had a really nice discussion, and I would like to thank you, Susanna, Lola, and also, well, Walter, who unfortunately was not able to join us today, for your inputs. I think it's another very important like milestone in advancing urban freight that we're talking about. We see a huge advance in the last like decade in importance of growing of urban freight. And of course, it's another topic that we are tackling today. Okay, I think if there's no, Manon, maybe you would like to announce for WeTransfer, yeah?
Yes, thank you. So on the same topic, we have a stakeholder forum meeting with the WeTransform project. The WeTransform project is addressing the workforce transition in all transport modes and all sectors of transport, so traffic management, urban freight, transport operations, in cities and not in cities. So yeah, we will discuss the gaps and opportunities related to the workforce transition on November 17. It will be a physical and online meeting. So you have all the information on the link that I have just posted in the chat. Check it out and join us for the discussion. Thank you.
Okay, then I think we can just make it away, yeah?
Thank you again to our speakers, and I hope everyone has a good rest of the day.
Bye-bye.
Thank you very much. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Bye.
Bye.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.